But
How do you feel about spoilers?
I love spoilers.
You love them.
I love spoilers. I'm pro spoilers. People hate having things spoiled for them, which is interesting because in the past that wasn't necessarily always the case. And being anti-spoilers is a really modern day phenomenon. These days, no one wants anything ruined for any pop culture. But I believe that this is the case not because people want to experience a story fully for themselves, but actually mostly due to the technology and the way that has shaped and driven the way storytelling is told in modern day. Spoiling can be beneficial. It can really enhance a story and make us see a more clear, thorough picture of a piece of art on the first run through, which is interesting because it's not really an intuitive conclusion. It's also hard to accept this argument because of the sheer amount of trolls that are out there. Due to the rise of social media and the popularity of things like Facebook and Twitter and all of that, people have had a lot of things ruined for them from malicious people who just want to ruin someone's day. This really paints a negative light on spoilers, and because of that, it makes it even harder for us to convince people that they could potentially be good for you. To take a look at this, we have to go back in the past a little bit and go back to how technology drove television. Television used to be non-serialized. Now, what I mean by that is that each individual episode was its own story. Take things like Friends or MASH or any of the old school dramas, even things like Stargate or Star Trek. Each individual episode before about the year 2000 contained its own story. And television didn't always necessarily need to go in a straight line. More often than not, it was an underlying plot that went throughout the whole season or series, while each individual episode contained its own story. The reason for this is because back in those days, we didn't have DVR. We didn't have the internet or Netflix. We didn't have reliable ways to record our stories. They didn't want people to miss one week and then not be able to understand what was going on the next week. Now, this all changed around the year 2000 to 2005. What happened is we ended up getting TiVo and DVR. And then beyond that, we got things like Netflix. And then eventually, the penultimate is that we ended up getting dumps of television, where Netflix now just says, we're not going to release them week by week. We're going to release all of them at once. And you can binge watch the entire thing.
I get to lay here all day.
This is why spoilers have become such a modern day phenomenon. Technology drove our stories to be told in a certain way in order to maximize profits. And that new method of storytelling, combined with modern social media, makes us all want to cover our eyes and ears whenever a new piece of pop culture comes out that we haven't seen yet.
Julian had Star Wars spoiled for him, looking at like Tipsy Bartender.
And so I'm scrolling through, and I just happened to like oh, Star Wars theme, oh, it's just shots, whatever. Kept going, and in my just quick look, I see Han Solo gets killed by his son, and I'm like 2 scrolls in, I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, did I just? And I didn't read that, so I scrolled up, and I like read the comment in full, and I was just like, that's not real. And so I spent, and I already had tickets to see it, but not the week that it came out, like 2 weeks later.
Sure.
And so I spent that entire 2 weeks in agony trying to convince myself, like, no, that guy's just trolling, like, he just wants people to think that. So going into the movie, like that day, I knew in my heart that it was real. Like, I knew that was real.
Really?
Yeah.
You felt? Personally, I love spoilers. I think they're fantastic. And I always want people to tell me the ending of things before I ever see it anywhere else. I have no problem doing that, and people think I'm absolutely insane. I realize that I'm definitely in the minority there. Try it out sometime. It takes a weight off your shoulders, and it really lets you experience something fully the first time you watch it. Because then you're seeing all these little connected nuances and dots that you might not have seen on the first run-through of a television show or a movie. There's studies that back this up too. There's a study at UC San Diego where this dude took a bunch of groups of 30 people and he gave one group the ending to a short story and another group he didn't tell them the ending. And the people who got the ending spoiled for them universally liked the stories more. He gave them 3 of them, and across the board, they were all more enjoyed. So, not convinced, he went back and did a second study. And in the second study, he spoiled the story for people halfway through it. He stopped them reading, told them the ending, and then had them keep reading the story. And guess what? They enjoyed that one more too. It seems like spoilers can't even do any wrong. As not intuitive as that seems.
But if you want me to like make like a hot take, that professor is a quack, and he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. No, but I'm saying like I just think I'm in the minority then.
How about it?
Yeah, catch me outside.
Well, our ancestors, being smarter than us, they knew this. And in the 6th line of Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare tells us that both Romeo and Juliet die.
From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers takes their own life.
I think we can guess a couple of reasons why he did this. The first reason is that technology actually drove those plays in the same way that technology of today drives our storytelling. So in 1595, you wouldn't see a play more than one time. Maybe it would come to town, you'd see it once, and then it would move on to the next town. So you needed to get a full understanding of the story on the first viewing of it. You didn't have the opportunity to watch it 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
So like Romeo and Juliet, they're star-crossed lovers. Everything's going great. Everything's awesome. This is a love story. If I tell you that they're going to die at the end before you read it, the whole time you're reading it, you're not passively taking in information. You're thinking and analyzing and like, well, is this ominous? Is this foreshadowing? Or this is just a bad day that someone had? You know, we're up here. I know we end up here, and people want to figure out how to connect the dots and get that aha moment.
So that's why he tells you right at the beginning of the play, hey, this is how it ends. It allows you to fully encapsulate everything that's going on your first viewing, because all of a sudden you're connecting dots. You're making connections and seeing subtleties and foreshadowing and things you wouldn't have noticed if you didn't know the ending. It also adds a lot of dramatic elements despite the fact that you know the ending. There's a part where Friar Lawrence gives Juliet an out and says there may be a chance to save Romeo. And everyone is captivated on the edge of their seats. They think, oh my gosh, they might actually live, even though he told you they don't. Still, it is one of the most powerful dramatic plays ever made, despite being, quote unquote, spoiled for you. Now we can fast forward to the modern day, where a sort of kind of remake of Romeo and Juliet was made that, interesting enough, was spoiled for all of us. And that movie was called Titanic.
Hang on, Mr. Dick.
We all knew the ending of Titanic. Everyone knows what happens. But, despite that, it goes on to become, at the time, the highest grossing and most successful movie ever made. And still, to this day, is quite up there. And remains a modern classic. It's interesting that that one was spoiled for us too, and has very similar themes of young love. Now, James Cameron gets a lot of shit, but he's a good storyteller. He may have done this on purpose or chosen a movie that he knew would be, quote-unquote, spoiled for everybody. It makes you that much more engaged in the story, because you know what's going to happen at the end. You almost feel like you're smarter than the story, because you understand it more completely. When you see these young lovers tossing around in the back of a car, in the back of your mind, you're like, oh shit, I know what's in store for you. I mean, have fun. Have fun while you fucking can. Good luck with that. See, at the end of the day, cue montage music. Romeo and Juliet is about family ties and miscommunication, and how about true love isn't always enough because humans aren't always good. And Titanic is about meeting a lover in an unsuspecting place, and how tragedy can take that love away as fast as it was garnered. And then we have Fight Club, which is about corporate America and modern masculinity, and how about people are trying to mold us from the outside in. Breaking Bad is about a father's love for his family so great that he's willing to become the villain in order to save them. And Star Wars is a coming-of-age tale about a father's fall from grace and his subsequent redemption with his family. At the end of the day, if a story is solid enough, it can't be spoiled for you. You're gonna have to experience it fully for yourself, because it's about the characters and the arc and the plot line and the story it weaves, the morals, the ups and the downs and the comedy and laughter that comes with all of this. If your story is nothing but a twist ending, it's a load of fucking bullshit. I'm calling you out right now, M. Night Shyamalan. Your stories are fucking bullshit. They offer nothing to humanity, and I'll take Romeo and Juliet any fucking day.
It is not
not the point of the movie. If you think the point of the movie Titanic is that the ship goes down, you're missing the fucking point. It's like the meat that's dangled in front of the dock. There's a burglar.
But do you agree that there are movies like M. Night Shyamalan's movies that the entire point is the twist, is the spoiler at the end?
If the entire point is the twist, it's lazy storytelling. It's lazy, shitty storytelling.
Okay.
The Sixth Sense does not hold up. You can't watch it in 2017. No one's seen it. No one talks about it. It's not a thing.
So if the entire point of a story is
a
the twist at the end,
it's lazy storytelling. It's shitty. It's a shitty movie.